This is the fourth video on Kripke's theory of proper name. In this video, we are going to see how Kripke is presenting his criticism against descriptivism theory. So, descriptivism is basically the theory of proper name that seeks to establish the semantic content of a proper name. Kripke is refuting any theory that attempts to offer the semantic content of proper name. So, any theory that seeks to establish the semantic content of proper name comes under the term descriptivism. So, descriptivism is a kind of umbrella term that incorporates some group of proper theories of proper name. For example, it incorporates Fregean theory of proper name because Frege, according to Frege, sense gives the semantic content of proper name. And it also involves Russellian theory of description because for Russell, proper name is actually disguised description. What we ordinarily call proper name is disguised description. So again, in today's video, we will be focusing especially on the cluster theory of proper name. Cluster theory is advocated by linguistic philosopher Saul. According to Saul, proper name, to every proper name or a designator, there corresponds a cluster of descriptions, cluster of properties. So, unlike Russellian or Fregean theory of description, cluster theory of proper name would say that for every proper name or designator, there corresponds a cluster, a bunch of properties or descriptions. Alright. So, Kripke, in short, rejects any theory that offers semantic content of proper name. This is the catch line of Kripkean theory of proper name. Alright. So we are going to touch upon the main theses of cluster theory of proper name, so as to understand how Kripke is proposing his counter argument against each of the theses of cluster theory of proper name. So some important theses of cluster theory of proper name are the following. Number one, for every proper name or designator, here I am using proper name or designator interchangeably. Okay, so for every proper name or designator, there corresponds a cluster of properties. Okay, this is the first thesis. Second thesis is that one of the properties or some conjointly are believed by somebody to pick out some particular some individual uniquely. So the second thesis goes as one of the properties or some conjointly believed by somebody to pick out an individual uniquely. Try to understand this thesis through an example. For example, my name is Smita. Alright. So, for Smita, there corresponds a cluster of descriptions. For example, I am pursuing higher studies in philosophy of language. I got 90% in my higher secondary education. So, the corresponding descriptions in the case of the proper name Smita would be the lady who got 90% in higher secondary, the lady who is pursuing higher studies in philosophy of language, the lady who is residing in India. All right. So these are the corresponding properties or descriptions uh, for the name, for the proper name or designator Smita. All right. So the second thesis of cluster theory of proper name claims that one of the properties or some means some conjointly believed by somebody pick out an individual uniquely. That means when the descriptions are being enunciated, the lady who got 90% in higher secondary and conjointly and pursuing higher studies in philosophy of language, these descriptions of properties conjointly enable one to pick out the particular individual, the lady Smita, uniquely. So this is the second thesis of cluster theory. All right. And the third thesis, the most or the weight most of the properties, as if the most or the weight or a weight most of the properties are satisfied by a particular individual, then particular individual or a particular object, then the particular individual or object is the referent of the proper name, given proper name. So like if most, here one thing is not understandable to me. What if some of the properties are not satisfying by one individual, then what would be the case? This is the question mark. For cluster theory of proper name, I am putting a question mark. The number 3 thesis claims that if most or a weight most means a weight most of properties are satisfied by a particular individual, then the particular individual or the object is the referent of the given proper name. One thing is not understandable to me, that if some of the descriptions are not fitting or satisfying the particular object or individual, then would that object or individual be the referent of the given proper name? I'm asking it to you. This is the one of the most important theses of cluster theory of proper name. Okay. So number 4, fourth point of cluster theory says, if the vote yields no unique object, then the proper name does not refer. Makes sense? If the most of the properties or the descriptions corresponds no particular object or individual, then the proper name refers to no one or nothing. It's a null class. There is a reference failure in Russellian word. All right. Okay. The next thesis, the statement, if the object exists, then the object has most of the qualities, is known a priori by the truth. The most interesting and the faulty notion of descriptivism. The proponents of descriptivism would say that the descriptions, the semantic content of proper name, that are the descriptions of proper name or the qualities of proper name, the semantic content of proper name are known by a speaker a priori. That means he need not to observe or gather empirical information to know the description of a proper name. for example, say for example my name Smita, and there since for every proper name there corresponds a cluster of descriptions or properties. So far as the cluster theory is concerned, they are known a priori. Okay, so the truth is a priori, I mean it is necessarily true. What so far philosophers understood that a prioricity and necessity run together, so they have conflated these two notions, a prioricity and necessity. Whatever is known a priori must be necessary to, whatever is necessary to must be known a priori. I mean this, so up till now philosophers understood this way. So what I have enunciated so far are the theses, main points of cluster theory of proper name. Cluster theory of proper name has been advocated by linguistic philosopher Saul, and this comes under the head of descriptivism theory. So descriptivism is a class. Descriptivism is an umbrella term that incorporates several theories of proper name, although those theories differ from each other slightly, but they all are called descriptivism because their main theses are more or less same. Got the point? Frege's theory of proper name, so far as his notion of sense is concerned, gives the semantic content of proper name. Russell claims that what we ordinarily call proper name are just disguised descriptions, and Searle claims that for every proper name or designator there corresponds a cluster of descriptions or proper name. That is why it is known as cluster theory. So only difference is that the cluster theory says that for every proper name there corresponds a cluster of descriptions, and for Russell he is not mentioning the cluster part, he is just telling that there corresponds description. For example, Russell would say Scott, Walter Scott, this is a proper name, and for these proper name there corresponds the description, the author of Waverley. And for Frege, Venus is a proper name, and the semantic content of the proper name Venus is the morning star, the evening star. Alright, and the most interesting and important point here is to remember is that Kripke rejects any theory that attempts to offer semantic content of proper name. Now our next step is to refute each of the theses proposed by cluster theory. To refute each of the theses of cluster theory of proper name. Okay, one by one we shall proceed. Meanwhile, I need to mention that Kripke's refutation, his rebuttal of descriptivism, has been classified between three things. So it has been categorized into three types of arguments. Kripke's criticism against descriptivism has been categorized into three different types of arguments. One is semantic, second one is epistemic, and another one is known as modal argument. All these types of argument put together refute descriptivism. So following Soames' book Beyond Rigidity, so this is a book I am referring to, Beyond Rigidity, authored by Soames, S-O-M-E-S, Soames. So Kripke's argument has been, Kripke's critique against descriptivism has been classified into three different categories: semantic, epistemic, and modal arguments. Okay. Semantic means meaning, that for every proper name there corresponds a sense, a meaning. The description is the meaning of proper name. Sense is the meaning of proper name. Okay. So for any proper name, say for example N is a proper name, and the referent of N is not linguistically determined by the description. Okay. Indeed by any description or set of descriptions. So what Kripke is telling, that referent of a proper name is not linguistically determined by the description. It's not determined by description. He is refuting the idea that the referent of any proper name is linguistically determined by description or cluster of description or any description. Okay. Russell says that description fixes the reference. Frege also claimed that sense of a proper name serves the purpose of fixing the reference. It is the route to the reference. It enables one to pick out the reference. So this is the purpose of description. Upon hearing a description, it enables us to pick out the particular individual or object. But Kripke rejects that idea, that a referent of a proper name not at all is linguistically determined by any description. Alright, epistemic argument. So descriptions are not known a priori. Okay. What a speaker believes that the author of Waverley is Scott. This is not known a priori, because one needs to empirically gather information so as to know that the author of Waverley is Scott. This is as simple as that. This is self-evident truth. But whereas descriptivist proponents claim that descriptions are known a priori. Okay, there is no issue to understand this. Now, modal argument. Sentences like Aristotle is the famous student of Plato. Okay, this could have been different. This could have been otherwise in different possible situation. Aristotle could not have been student of Plato. It might have been the case that he never ever attended Plato's academia. It could have also been the case that he was never born at all, or he has not taken birth in Stagira. Alright, so numbers of possible state of situations we can imagine. So this entails that the description for a proper name, the corresponding description is not the necessary truth. It's just contingently true. It's not necessarily true. This is an overview of the arguments that have been proposed by Kripke so as to counter descriptivism. Now, in detail, we are going to dissect each of the argument that are countered, that have been proposed in order to counter each of the theses of cluster theory of proper name. Alright. So remember the second thesis of cluster theory. The second thesis of cluster theory says one of the properties or some conjointly believed by somebody to pick out an individual person or object uniquely. Okay, now if you have the book Naming and Necessity, you um, open page number 297. There we will be able to see a counter example, thought experiment basically. Feynman Gale-Mann example. The counter example is known as Feynman Gale-Mann example. Okay, this example is a thought experiment, sort of thought experiment, or also known as counter example, to refute the second thesis of cluster theory. Feynman Gale-Mann example. What does it actually mean? The peculiar it sounds peculiar. The Feynman Gale-Mann case. All right. Actually, these are the names, some proper names. Feynman is a proper name. Gale-Mann is a proper name. Okay. No need to complicate it. Just like Smith, Jones, Alter, Scott, all these are proper names. Like that, Feynman, Gale-Mann are two instances of proper name, and Kripke uses this in his lecture, which you will be able to find out in page number 297 in Naming and Necessity. Okay, so this counter example just seeks to prove that in the case of these two proper names, we cannot supply such description that can uniquely pick out those individuals, because those individuals are so like not so famous. Okay, Feynman is a physicist. Okay, so what we can say, Feynman is the physicist. Would it, I mean, does this description adequate to pick out one particular individual uniquely? Not at all, because there could have been lot of physicians. Okay, so we can have some proper names. For them, there we cannot find actually descriptions or properties that can uniquely pick out those individuals, because they are not like Aristotle, Walter Scott, Mahatma Gandhi. These are few proper names. For them, we can have certain description that would enable us to pick out those persons uniquely, because they have some qualities, famous qualities, some extraordinary capacities, descriptions. For them, we can uniquely pick out them individually. Okay, but for in general, for common ordinary proper names like Feynman, Gale-Mann, just a physicist. So the physicist. Okay, the physicist, this description, would it be sufficient to pick out one individual uniquely? Not at all. So Kripke's rebuttal against the second thesis of cluster theory goes like that. Having understood this, let's proceed to the third thesis of cluster theory. The third thesis says, if most or a weighted most of the properties are satisfied by one unique object, then that object is the referent of the proper name. Now again, one counter example that has been proposed against this thesis. You will find it in page number 298 in the Naming and Necessity. Okay, Gödel and Schmidt case. Gödel and Schmidt case. So Gödel is a proper name, Schmidt is a proper name. Okay, Gödel was the person who is famous for proving the incompleteness of arithmetic. So Gödel was the person who was famous for proving the incompleteness of arithmetic. Alright, so now this is a thought experiment where Kripke imagines a situation where Gödel has not proved the incompleteness of arithmetic. Somehow he could manage to hold the manuscript, okay, where the proof of incompleteness of arithmetic has has been done. Somehow he could manage it with hooks and crook. Okay, by hook and crook he could manage the manuscript of the incompleteness of arithmetic. He in fact never proved himself, but he managed it, and also managed to pass the work off as his own. Somehow he managed to claim this work as his own. Imagine a situation, counterfactual situation. Originally he did prove the uh, incompleteness of arithmetic, but we are imagining a situation, a counterfactual situation, a possible situation. Okay, where Smith, a person named Smith, proved the incompleteness of arithmetic, but Gödel, uh, by hook and crook, somehow managed the manuscript from Smith, and uh, somehow managed to pass the work off as his own. Okay, in that particular situation, the description, the man who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic would not refer to Gödel, that would refer to Smith, because in reality I'm talking about the counterfactual situation. Remember, in that particular counterfactual situation, Smith is the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic. All right, so the description would refer to Smith, not Gödel. But for Kripke maintains that Gödel would still refers to Gödel, person Gödel. The name Gödel, the proper name Gödel, would still refer to the person Gödel. Okay. For we are imagining a situation in which Gödel did not discover the incompleteness of arithmetic. But we are not imagining that. We are not imagining a situation in which Smith was Gödel. Understood what that counterexample intend to establish? It is supposing a counterfactual situation where Gödel did not discover the incompleteness of arithmetic. Someone else, say for example Smith, discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic. In that case, the description, the person, the quote unquote, the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic refer to Smith, not Gödel. In that situation also, the proper name Gödel would still refer to the person Gödel. Okay, we are not at all imagining a situation where in which Smith was Gödel. That means the person, even if the person Gödel, even if he had not discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic, would still refer to the person, would still remain the same person. See, I am Smita. Okay, so if I am not pursuing high study in philosophy of language, suppose I never ever went to school, still I would remain the same person. The name Smita would still continue to refer to the same for me, even though I have not done education, I have not done academic, I have not academic qualifications. All right, irrespective of any description, any proper name would refer to the person designated by the proper name. That is the key idea. Now let's move on to the next thesis. Thesis number 4. If the vote yields no unique object, the proper name does not refer. Okay, if the vote does not yields no unique object, the proper name does not refer. If the vote means if the descriptions, okay, would not satisfy any entity, then the proper name is a null class or does not refer to anything, or there is a reference failure, in other words. So in that case, okay, this has been described in page 299. You can check it. Okay. Again, Feynman and Gödel's case. Let's look at these cases. Most speakers, the descriptive backing for Feynman, a physicist or a leading contemporary theoretical physicist, does not yield a unique object. And Gödel case, the speaker's descriptive backing, just hear these points I'm mentioning. Gödel case, the speaker's descriptive backing may even yield no object in Gödel's case. For example, suppose no one had discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic, but the proof simply materialized by a random scattering of atoms on a piece of paper. Then the descriptive backing for Gödel would yield no object, but the name would still refer to Gödel. I hope you got the point. If the board yields no unique object, that means if the cluster of descriptions yield no unique object, then the proper name does not refer. So again a counterfactual situation, again a thought experiment has been produced so as to counter this thesis. And what is the thought experiment? Gödel's case. Suppose that nobody has proven the incompleteness of arithmetic. In reality, actually, Gödel has proven it, but we can imagine such counterfactual situation where nobody has proven the incompleteness of arithmetic. Okay, so the description, the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic, quote unquote. I mean, the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic, this description, since it satisfies, no entity satisfies this description, then the object, no unique object is, since the description yields no unique object, then the proper name Gödel would refer no one. Is it so? No. Kripke is claiming that Gödel would still refer to the person Gödel, even if nobody has proven the incompleteness of arithmetic. Next argument is known as epistemic argument. That means if the object exists, if an object exists, then the object has most of the properties that is known a priori by the speaker. This is, I already covered this point. Again, I am just going to refute from Kripke's standpoint. The fifth thesis is claiming that if an object exists, then most of the properties of the object are known by a priori by a speaker. For example, Gödel is a person. Originally, he has proven the incompleteness of arithmetic. Or set aside Gödel's example. Smita. I got 90% marks in higher secondary. Yeah, I'm praising myself. I got 95%. So anyhow, I'm pursuing higher studies in philosophy of language or philosophy. I took birth in the country India. So these descriptions or the qualities or the properties of the individual Smita are known a priori by a speaker. Suppose my mother is talking about me or my friend is talking about me, Smita. Smita is a girl or a lady is pursuing high studies in philosophy and also got 95% marks in higher secondary, and like conjointly she's talking about the descriptions, a cluster of descriptions that corresponds, that yields the individual Smita. Does it make sense that all these descriptions are known a priori? If you do not know me, if I would not have told you that my name is Meeta and I have secured 95% marks in high secondary and I am pursuing higher studies in philosophy, uh, upon knowing, on knowing the name, only the proper name Smita, would it be able for you to know all these descriptions a priori? Simply no. If I know somebody's name, how can I know his properties or descriptions intuitively, or a priori? I have to gather information empirically so as to know the descriptions. Okay, for example, Venus, the planet Venus, corresponds to descriptions: the morning star, the evening star. So these are not known a priori. These are the consequences of empirical discovery. After empirical discovery, we came to know that Venus is the morning star and as well as it is the evening star. So this is the epistemic argument that is posed against the thesis of cluster theory, which claims that if an object exists, then the object has most of the qualities is known a priori by the speaker. Actually, I think this thesis is simply a silly claim, silly assertion of cluster theory proponents or descriptivists proponent. The descriptions are known a priori. How could this be known a priori? Anyhow, let's proceed to the next argument, known as modal argument. Modal, the term has emerged from model. It refers to, actually, model logic is a huge area. Now currently philosophers are doing extensive research in this. So anyway, we are trying to understand Kripke's argument, model arguments against cluster theory or descriptivism. The thesis of cluster theory, a proper name goes as, if an object exists, then the object has most of the qualities, expresses a necessary truth. If you remember, I have already covered this argument, this argumentation before also. What is this telling? If an object exists, then the corresponding descriptions will be a necessary truth, would be considered necessary truth. Take an example. Aristotle was the famous student of Plato. Aristotle, an individual, the corresponding descriptions for the proper name Aristotle would be the famous student of Plato, the teacher of Alexander the Great. And the descriptivist would claim that these are necessary truth. But Kripke says no, not at all. These are contingent truth, because we could imagine certain counterfactual situation where Aristotle was the famous student of Plato is a contingent truth. It could have been the case that he never attended Plato's academia. It could have been the case that he even did not take birth in Stagira. His parents gave birth in Sparta. Aristotle took birth in Sparta and became physicist like his father. So scenario could have been different. So these are the thought experiment that has been posed so as to counter the thesis that claims that Descriptions corresponding a proper name expresses a necessary truth. So we can very well understand or encounter as well as counter these by means of a thought experiment. The thought experiment helps to establish that these are all contingent truth. Okay, you can find it in page number 295 to 296 in Naming and Necessity book. Okay, the thought experiment, like as I just now mentioned, that Aristotle, as a youth, he never goes to Plato's academy. He stays at home in Sparta. Perhaps he becomes a physician like his father, and the rest of his life is virtually entirely different from the one we read about him in the history books. What we have described in a possible world in which Aristotle has virtually none of the qualities. Okay, that actually he possesses, the qualities that actually he possesses. In possible world, we could imagine that Aristotle has none of these qualities. Okay, also it could have been possible that Aristotle never existed. So these are all the possible states of situation, possible worlds. Kripke would call possible worlds that we can very well imagine. So what it boils down? It boils down to the conclusion that corresponding descriptions of a proper name always is contingent truth, never ever necessary truth. So with this, I'm going to wind up my discussion. In my next video, I am going to cover Kripke's alternative theory of proper name. Today, I covered my video. I covered the descriptivists, Kripke's critique against descriptivism, and in my next video, I am going to cover Kripke's alternative theory, that is known as initial baptism and causal chains. How he is introducing it, and in detail we shall be deliberating upon it. So let me wind up my video here. See you soon.